Six Orange Show. My name is Jacob Sminted Sanders. I am your host, and as always, I'm joined by Jamie Selceus Christensen right below me. He's back this weekend.
I was going to say not as always because I wasn't here last week, but
yeah, it was just Tanner and I last weekend, and Tanner's right below him.
Hello.
Thank you guys for doing that without me. Sorry, everyone. I was not feeling well.
Totally okay. We didn't miss you.
Oh, Jesus.
I laugh because I know it's just untrue.
It is untrue. It was kind of weird only having two of us. We finished in like an hour and 20 minutes.
So you're saying that I add at least another 10 minutes of
conversation? You add at least another 10 to 20 minutes. Yeah, you do. Anyways, I'm not expecting this one to be as long either because it was just playoffs and matchups like that. So, yeah. Overall, we got our first 4-peat in NA. Team Liquid. That's probably never going to happen again. No lie. Probably not going to happen again ever. And in EU, we got a shocking upset with Rogue going 3 over Splice. So, yeah, that was probably the most surprising thing to happen this weekend.
For sure.
I don't think anything else was newsworthy. Griffin made Worlds. SKT is in Worlds. I can't think of... Oh, Invictus Gaming's not going to be in Worlds. How about that?
Oh, wow.
I had not paid attention to the LPL at all, so I did not know that.
What happened there? Like how
he fell off the face of the fucking earth, I guess. Holy.
So does that make the argument that TL, beat them to get into MSI finals less impressive?
No, it doesn't, because Invictus was still really good then. But I would like to make a meme and say NA destroyed Invictus Gaming that they didn't make Worlds. Anyways, no, I think there's still a chance for them to make the gauntlet.
But, I mean, the Trailblazers destroyed Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, pretty much. But from what I know, though, Invictus Gaming can't have the number 1 or number 2 seed at this point anymore. So, yikes. I think it's the only big news to come out. I don't even know if a Chinese team is qualified yet. Not that I've been notified on Twitter, and not that LoL Esports has said either. I think it's just Korean teams, EU teams, and NA teams that have qualified so far. I don't even think wildcard regions have qualified yet. We're still very early in the process for Worlds. So I guess that's our news for it. I'm gonna check as we go into EU for any more news. In the meantime, though, let's talk about Europe. So the first one was Splice versus Rogue. While I make sure there's no other Worlds news, you guys want to take this one away?
Sure. Well, as you mentioned already, Rogue came out and swinging, and Splice didn't show up. They kind of look like the Splice of yesteryear, I guess, where they make it to playoffs, but they're kind of ever fourth. Well, in this case, they didn't even do as well as fourth because Rogue destroyed them. Honestly, I don't remember any of the games being that close. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I mean, from watching it myself, I was very much blown away with how well Rogue was just kind of keeping up the pace in every single game. Nothing really felt too out of hands for them. It was not a close series by any stretch of the imagination. It was kind of shocking almost trying to watch it. Rogue is historically a pretty kind of a similarly slow to start team like Splice is. So I think going into this series, I think Splice was expecting, okay, we're just going to beat Rogue at their own game because they've got a very similar playstyle to us, so we'll just do that.
Right. Well, we're going to beat them at our own game because we're just going to get to the late game and we're better at it than they are.
Yeah, exactly. But then Rogue just showed up and started playing basically how you have to play to win series this year, it seems like. Where early aggression that's executed well is highly rewarded in this kind of meta. And Rogue came out swinging, and they swung hard, and they swung well. I don't know how else to really phrase it. It doesn't look. It definitely looks like Splice just got punched in the mouth, and they had no strategy for what to do afterwards.
I think the extremely current comparison to make is Clutch. Nobody expected much out of Clutch coming into playoffs. They manhandled TSM and then took TL to 5.
Hey, don't bring Nolan, because I bet on Clutch to beat TSM. Come on.
Both of you did, but that's more because of the lack of faith you had in TSM. more than the fact
I'll
that you
say this.
actually
I
believe
expected them
in
to beat
clutch
TSM
gaming.
and get stomped by Team Liquid. I agree with that.
So, but like, you know, they came into the playoffs and showed that they're a team to be like a force to be reckoned with going into the gauntlet. I believe they made it into the gauntlet, right? I could be wrong.
Who? Clutch?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in the gauntlet.
Rogue, honestly, if they play like they did against Splice, like, you know, they are playing Shulka because of the different formats and EU from, you know, one of the two seeds. It's quite possible that we see them on a forward placement, right? If they play like they did against Splice, they have a very good chance against Shulka. I just don't know yet if I'm ready to believe that they're going to perform that well. Like, I think Shulka might still have the advantage.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Sanders, do you have anything to?
So, like when it comes to like Rogue, beating like Splice, I think Rogue has a shot against Shalcom. We'll talk about that when we talk about the matchups coming up this weekend. But I want to examine like, well, what happened here, right? And when you watch these games, I think all you really need to do is watch the first 15 minutes, and you can pretty much tell me what's going to happen the rest of the game, right? For all three of these. So in my opinion, like Rogue won the games 15 minutes into the game, and pretty much past 15 minutes, it was the point of no return. And the reason I say this is because Splice, while being like, I'm still going to say this despite the fact that they just got 3-0'd. Maybe that's foolish of me. Maybe it's not. I don't really know. This is still like the best like late game team in EU. No?
No, I would agree with that. I mean, historically speaking, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't
based
get to see them in their element really here in the late game. So
Yeah,
I
I
think it's fair to say that still. Yeah.
I think the big thing is Rogue decided how you beat Splice is kind of like what G2 showed. You play aggressively against them, and they're not really gonna like show up that well. Now, I'm not saying like Splice is bad at laning. I'm saying that they're not very good at rotating around the map. Splice is very much we want
until later in the game.
But what I'm saying is like Splice very much Xerxes just wants to farm, right? Xerxes just wants to farm it out. He wants to control his lanes, maybe give an occasional gank, get like early small advantages, and Splice take those small advantages and drive it into the mid game. And then the mid game is where they shine, and then late game goes even farther. In this case, Rogue didn't give him a chance. Like Rogue constantly kept up the fighting, they kept up the skirmishing, and they very much played around the map. Like there was that dive bot lane against Kobe. I think it was like a 3-lane dive or whatever. And Finn's aggressiveness in the top lane like couldn't be matched by Vizicachi here. I think overall, like this was just very much Rogue was outcoached Splice. I'm not like discrediting the players here, but I think very much Rogue had the better game plan than Splice did. I think Splice was trying to play their strengths, and Rogue wasn't playing to their strengths. Rogue said, "Fuck our strengths, let's play to beat Splice specifically," right? And that kind of adversity, like there's something to be said about that kind of adversity. But I'm gonna like tone down like their 3-0 because they played to beat a team, right? I'm kind of wondering like, can they like consistently do this? I'm imagining the answer is no. But can you look at a team and say, we can't counter their play style, can we beat them with our own, right? I'm not sure if Rogue is that team, although I'm like very impressed that they did this, and I'm pretty hopeful. And if they actually if they beat actually no, that was only a vitality one. So no matter what, actually Rogue's in the gauntlet. There's that. So I don't want to sound like I'm discrediting Rogue's win here, but I feel like the reason they won is not something for me to be saying they're definitely beating Schalke, right? Because I'm not going to say that. I'm not even sure what my prediction is yet, maybe as we talk about it more, but I kind of wanted to reflect on it and say, hey, this is how they won. Do you think just because they countered Splice, that's enough to say they can do it to another team? Even if it is someone like Schalke, like, do you think they can again? Or maybe it was just, this is the weakness of Splice, and we executed it perfectly. And so they got the 3-0.
Do I think that they can is different than do I think that they will? Do I think they can? Yes, because their opponent is Schalke. If they were playing Fnatic or G2, like if they were in NA, I would give them like, you know, a 5% or less chance to win those games. But against Schalke, a team that they technically are, you know, in the same clump as, I guess, you know, like we put G2 up here, we put Fnatic here, and then we kind of clump a lot of teams as your next group of teams in that, like, I guess, A tier kind of thing, you know? And even though Schalke might be at the top of A tier, Rogue, I think you'd put them kind of at the bottom of A tier. They're still in the same group. So do I think that they can? Yes, especially if they play like they did going up against Splice. Or in the case that you're making, if they have come in with a similar game plan that directly counters their opponent in Splice, like Splice or not Splice, Schalke. Splice and Schalke are different teams, so obviously you're going to counter them in slightly different ways. But but if Rogue could come in with a game plan that counters Splice's game plan, then I don't think that it's far-fetched to say that they could do the same against Schalke. It's just, will they be able to perform to the same level with that game plan as they were able to with the game plan they came in against Splice?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I definitely think they can as well. I agree a lot with that, but it does kind of feel to me that like Schalke will. I think now that the secret is kind of out and everybody kind of knows that Rogue is going to probably play with this a bit of an aggressive play style, I think it's going to be easier for a team like Schalke to kind of adapt and say, okay, well, we need to be ready for this. And I think they will manage to do that, but I would, it's not out of the picture because again, this is like, you know, during the regular season, I think especially early on, I probably would, you know, call this a coin flip between Schalke and Rogue. So there's definitely a possibility for them to get by him, but I'm not going to favor them. You know.
Did you have an opinion, or I had one more point that I wanted to bring up?
Go ahead.
So I listened to Euphoria last week's podcast, and then also listened to the like interview after the series. And one thing that I think is of note, they interviewed Finn, the top laner in the Euphoria episode, as kind of like the Rogue spokesperson. They kind of had one person on from each of the 4 teams that played this last weekend to talk to them about their team specifically. And then after the game, they interviewed Larson. And one thing that was true about both of those players is the moment does not appear to be too big for them. Like, they, for being as new to the LEC at least as they are, they do not appear to feel like they are in over their heads. And I think that if they are legitimately that confident and calm about playing League of Legends at this level, then that's another reason why you could argue that I think they have a good chance to potentially do what they did against Splice against another team. It's just when you're playing against talent that's a lot better than you in Fnatic or G2, that's where I'm going to question whether or not they can do it until they prove that they can. But again, against Schalke, I think that it is, in my opinion, I think that it's, you know, I'm going to look at it similar to them going in against Splice. I might not think that they're going to win, but they sure proved me wrong against Splice this last weekend, that's for sure.
Nice.
So I'd have to mostly agree with what you said. Um, However, I kind of want to talk about like the other opponent, like Schalke, because like Tanner was starting to get into like the Schalke Rogue part.
Mhm.
Well, I think it's kind of weird here when you look at like these two opponents. Schalke was beat who they were supposed to beat, right? Pretty handily. Rogue beat who they were not supposed to beat, and it was through a pretty well done game plan. Like I said, I firmly believe like a huge reason to this is Spice got out coached, and like that's nothing against like the Rogue players. Like they executed on the game plan, right? And of course, you have to be a good team to execute on the game plan. But I firmly believe this was a case of the coach saying this is what needs to be done, and the team agreeing, okay, this is what needs to be done, and they executed on the coach's game plan, right, or the team game plan that was formed during those sessions. Um, it's kind of hard to like to look at it. So like let's look at what Schalke did here, right? They pretty much pup stomped Vitality. Even in the game that Schalke lost to Vitality, they were beating Vitality pretty handily. It's just the game got out of hand and Vitality took the free win. Is what I would say, right? I think that's pretty good description here. But Schalke is kind of like what Tanner and I were saying last weekend. You weren't here for it, Celsius, but Tanner and I called Schalke like CLG light, and that's kind of what they are. They're a very diverse team. They're probably the most like balanced team in the sense that like they play as a group together. Like no player outshines the other on Schalke really. Sometimes Trick has really good games. Sometimes it's Abadage. Sometimes it's Upset. Sometimes it's Ignar making the engages, or it's just Odoamne being a consistent presence in the top lane that like the enemy team can't deal with. And we very much saw that happen in this game. There was a game where Abadage popped off. There was a game where Odoamne Cabachard couldn't deal with him. And then there was another game where Upset just went rampant. So this is a team that doesn't need one player to consistently pop off, right? They just perform well as a team. And their drafts are very unique, like being able to pull out, the Kiana jungle or, the Mordekaiser top. Not many teams like to do that, but they do. So they have a unique skill set in the draft. And that's certainly advantages going in. But I can't help but wonder, like, did we like see enough of Schalke to like really like analyze this, or is it mostly we just saw a lot from Rogue, and you have to wonder if Rogue pops off in the early game again, can Schalke handle that? I really don't know, and there's a heavy consideration to be made, I think, for Rogue winning, and certainly the fact that like going back to week 17. Rogue performed very well in the early game. That's why they won their games in week 17, right? And in the playoffs, they did the same thing. They played the early game very well. 3 games in a row, and that's all it took. So at this point, as Schalke, do you like look at Rogue and do you ask yourself, do we need to counter Rogue's early game and like keep it calm and not let them do what they want in the early game? Or is it just Rogue on a hot streak? Or is Rogue's identity, we are an early game team, we will stomp you in the early game, and there's nothing you can do about it once we get to that point, right? I really don't know. And it's kind of fascinating because Rogue's dominance, they're on like a 6-game win streak, so I'm putting quotes around dominance, is very short-lived at the moment, and it's only been done against 4 teams. To me, this is a very hard read for the matchup, and it doesn't help that like when you look at Schalke's win versus Vitality, they didn't show us much. They showed us what we already knew about Schalke.
Right. I don't know. Schalke to me is a team that I guess kind of like Splice has an identity. I think I can agree with you on the CLG light assessment. Like they're just consistent and the reason why. So like if you were looking at the playoffs in a bubble, I would agree with you that there wasn't a lot to take away from Schalke. But the thing to me is that you can take away some for Schalke from the regular season. Like I think that they showed you more in the regular season than Rogue did. Rogue was an up and down team that like what they showed us against Splice is a completely different team than who they were in the regular season. as you stated earlier, as they stated on the broadcast during the series, Rogue used to also be just a late game team. And what they came into playoffs and I guess the last week of the regular season as is a early game team that if they were able to get an advantage on you, was able to carry that advantage to some victories. So I think the reason why we might be taking more from the Rogue series is not only that they beat a team that nobody predicted them to be able to. I think that it also is that they've only shown us this Rogue team, this early game Rogue team, for essentially the playoffs and very little else. Schalke, however, as I was saying, they have been the same team for pretty much the second half of the split at the very least, and they continued to do the exact same thing in the playoffs, which led them to be able to beat Vitality like we all expected them to because Vitality, none of us believed in Vitality. The fact that the one game they lost was essentially an even game. I don't know if Schalke really had that big of an advantage, but I do think that it was like at least an even game all the way through. I don't think that Vitality necessarily like had the game in the bag from like the 10-minute mark or anything like that. I think that it was the fights were back and forth. Each team might be losing like 3 members, or one fight it would be a 3-2 loss, and then the next fight it would be 3-2 the other way. Like, I just think that it was extremely back and forth, and ultimately, it was the one fight that Vitality ended up winning that let them win the game. But like, it wasn't even when they won the game, it was one of those like, just hurry up and do it or we're gonna lose. And like they barely got it done before Schalke came respawned, and they were almost able to extend the game, but Vitality just managed to get the last hit on the Nexus just in time. So I think that game was, you can't really take anything away from it, but otherwise I think Schalke showed exactly who they are, which is who we expected them to be. Rogue, I think, showed us a new Rogue that we're expecting to see going forward, but we also don't know because they haven't shown it to us for very long.
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add on that. I think that's a pretty good analysis of it. I guess the only last thing I'd say is just, for me, I guess there might have just been, like you said, a slight element of surprise for Rogue, but it's so hard to kind of, evaluate this, and I think we'll just need more time. So yeah, not really too much more to add on that.
Do we want to just?
Is that it? Is that it, Tanner?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I think Celceus.
I was definitely looking down at like something, like I was looking up something on my phone for it.
Yeah,
and
no. I mean, I think Celceus did a pretty good job of. Yeah, I think he did a pretty good job wrapping it up. I don't have too much more to add.
Okay, gotcha. I thought you were gonna continue, and then I was like, wait, he paused.
Yeah, I can start to hear that too.
Yeah, you all hear that? What the fuck?
Just so everybody knows, Sanders is in the middle of a storm.
The apocalypse outside.
That might come to me soon too.
Yeah, it's gonna be in Tanner in about 5 minutes. He lives 15 minutes away. The storm will be there in his way as well. Knowing how Arizona works, though, there's been times where it like pours ass rain in Gilbert but doesn't touch Mesa.
Yeah, that's true.
Or pours in like Tempe and doesn't touch Scottsdale. So I guess maybe it wouldn't be near him. Who knows? Anyway, we're not here to talk about Arizona weather. This is a League of Legends show. Let's talk about the future playoff matchups this weekend. Why don't we?
Sounds good.
So this weekend we have Rogue versus Schalke and G2 versus Fnatic.
Yes, the EU format.
Yeah, the E format's pretty cool. It's so funny because I remember saying I hated it at first. This always happens. I say I hate something, then I love it. Sanders is wrong. Sanders is always wrong. Remember that. Always wrong.
Boys and girls, remember, if there's one thing to take away from this show, it's that Sanders is always wrong.
I'm always wrong. I mean, that's not true because I was pretty good about picks this split, but like I'm usually wrong. The split was an anomaly. Anyways, Rogue versus Schalke here. Speaking of being wrong, I've convinced myself to pick Rogue here. Despite the fact I really like, I'm gonna tell you why. Despite the fact I really like Schalke here, and I believe they are CLG light, and I like CLG's playstyle. I like the versatility CLG brings, and the same thing with Schalke. I like the versatility they bring. I love Davidage's growth, kind of like how Wiggly grew. Trick was a great addition. What's his name? Odawane has not been inting. That's kind of nice, and Upset and Ignore are having a fine time. However, Rogue's aggression in the early game is unmatched by anyone, I think, except by G2 at the moment. I'm not saying Rogue can be Fnatic, okay? It's not where I'm going with this. But when I say unmatched, I mean like no other team really like pulls off that kind of firepower in the early game except G2. And so far, I mean, Rogue didn't have that much competition to do it, but so far no one has slowed him down. And I think the fact that you took down the number 3 seed team in Europe, a team who looked very, very good, and a team who I thought could beat Fnatic in playoffs, the fact you 3-0'd them with that style is awesome. And it's a huge momentum builder. So I think like a lot is playing in Rogue's favor in the fact that I think they finally figured themselves out as a team. With Finn on the roster, there's been a huge mentality shift, and even like Larson has talked about that. And like the entirety of like Rogue in interviews post game, they've talked about like how the mentality shift with Finn and how like one person was able to come in and say, "Hey, you guys were losers before, but now I'm here, right? This is a different team. 20% of the other team is gone. Profit's not here. I'm here." Mentality shift, right? And then when you start winning, you start buying into that. And then when you start winning, you get confident in each other, you trust each other, and suddenly everything starts clicking. Very much that's what's happening with Rogue right now, and I'm going to foolishly buy it. And I'm going to pick Rogue through. It's a tough one. I want to say 3-1. I'm going to say 3-2. I think it's a 3-1, but for the official pick, I'm going to say 3-2. I like Rogue's aggression here, and I think they keep that up. I don't think Schalke will have an answer.
Sounds good. I'm gonna go with Schalke. I do think that Rogue has a chance to continue the momentum, as we were talking about before the podcast or before the show. Excuse me. Sanders and I were talking about, and I brought it up again. I believe a lot in momentum, and Rogue definitely has it right now. But I do think that Schalke is not as one-dimensional as Splice in the fact that Splice is a late-game team. I believe that Schalke is a consistent team across all of the phases of the game. I really like the Trick pickup. I think that he has been, like, we talk about in NA how, like, Cody Sun for Clutch was a great pickup, and Ruin for CLG was a great pickup. Well, for Schalke, Trick has been that pickup. Like, I guess kind of for EU in general, like across all of the teams in EU, Trick has kind of been that pickup. I do really like the solo laners for Rogue. I think that both of them show very high propensity for the aggressive champions that both of them like to play. But I do think that can be punished. I think Trick will be good at punishing it. I think that Abadage has improved and can also be that way himself. And Odawane is a veteran that I think can handle that sort of aggression. So I don't know. I believe a little bit more in Schalke. I haven't completely bought into Rogue. If they win this series, I definitely will.
Not buy into them because they're playing G2 or Fnatic.
I will not. I will probably not pick them against G2 or Fnatic, but I will say that they have a very good chance in the Gauntlet. If they can win this series. But as of right now, I still think that I have to be a little hesitant to like jump on board, and for that, I'm gonna give.
Did my internet go out? Shit. Hopefully they come back. Let me double check. Oh, there we go. Okay.
I think you were frozen for a second.
Yeah, there's a storm rolling in now, so I think there might be some internet connections. Oh, could I get your prediction one more time for the camera? It was.
Yeah, no problem. I think I'm gonna pick 3-1 for
3-1.
Schalke.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a similar boat. I really liked what I saw from Rogue, but something does kind of give me the feeling that, maybe not the entire cat's out of the bag, but at least partially of it is. And I think Schalke will be better prepared to handle it. But then the other side of that coin is Schalke's not the team that Splice was during the regular season. So if Splice couldn't handle it, why would Schalke be able to? And at the end of the day, for me, it's hard for me to pick a team here because I think it's a bit of a coin flip. That being said, I think I will take Schalke here. I'll take them 3-2. I think this has the opportunity to be a really close series. And who knows? Maybe this turns into another Clutch CLG situation where Clutch gets a 2-game lead, or, Rogue gets a 2-game lead, and then, Schalke just gets them with a reverse sweep. I don't know how this is going to play out exactly, but I have a really good feeling it'll be close, and I have a feeling that Schalke will win it.
All right, now the big matchup.
Oh,
yes. G2 versus Fnatic. You know what's funny? This doesn't even feel like a big matchup to me because, no one's eliminated here, right?
No, that's
Right.
true. Yeah, nobody's.
Yeah, you make the finals here, but no one's eliminated. It's not like Schalke versus Rogue, where if you lose, you're done.
Right.
Whereas Fnatic G2, it's if you lose, okay, you get a second shot. You go to the losers bracket.
But the thing is that this could be the only matchup we see these two teams play against one another.
If that happens again this year, where Schalke or where G2 and Fnatic don't meet each other in the finals, and we get another 3-0 stomp by G2, I'm going to be viciously upset.
This ain't a fucking spring split Fnatic here, let me tell you. Oh my god. Anyway, so let's not imagine that. I don't want to think about a reality where we don't have a G2 Fnatic finals, because quite honestly, I feel like I'd be disappointed. Then again, G2 could 3-0 Fnatic this weekend. I think no matter what, we would not like what's going on at finals. So to be honest, though, looking at this matchup, I said this in our Discord. In my opinion, after watching SKT versus Daiwan, SKT dominated Daiwan to qualify for Worlds, and even seeing Griffin's playstyle, I'm not fully bought into SKT. To me, they played an over glorified ARAM, which is I guess kind of like what NA does, and every team has their strengths. And NA is not the best side lane region. They very much like to fight a lot in the mid lane, not in a terrible way like it used to be, but they love to coordinate fights around Dragon, River, middle lane, Baron. That's NA style. You fight around those four things. You fight in the river, you fight the Dragon, you fight at the Baron, or you fight in the mid lane tower. So it's pretty much what NA likes to do. SKT did the same thing, and it was nothing spectacular, so I didn't understand the hype other than they dominated their opponent. And this brings in, he's excited about the Storms. Arizonan's excited about the Storms.
I don't know if he's excited. He might be worried.
Hey, man, us Arizonas love our Storms. We really do. Don't we, Tanner?
Fuck, sorry. Yeah,
now you know how I feel over here. Anyway, so as I was saying, though, I'm not thoroughly convinced by it, and I think I need to watch a little more Griffin VODs to see how they're doing. But, in my opinion, G2 is the best team in the world. Flat out, hands down. I don't think they're my pick to win Worlds, and they haven't even, Worlds hasn't even started. I don't think anyone's beating them in a best of 5. Yeah, you're gonna put that in. I don't think anyone's beating them in a best of 5. I don't think anyone's gonna outdo them. Like, quite honestly, if this is a 3-0 in this matchup, I would expect the finals to be a 3-0 no matter who they're playing. Um, G2 is just a phenomenal team, right? Uh, I remember like back in January when it like floored me that they 3-0'd Origin, then they 3-0'd Origin and again, and I was like, good luck. Like in the Discord, you can go back and look. I said, good luck to every team at MSI because you can't figure out G2. What happened? SKT took G2 to a close series, but G2 still won, and then G2 3-0 Team Liquid. Like, G2 very clearly outshined everyone. SKT was the closest, and I actually firmly believe there's a case to be made that SKT should have won that because Game 4 was very much in SKT's hands, and then they kind of threw, and G2 took it, and then Game 5, G2 won. But not the point. It's just ever since that final, I've been so bought into G2 as the best team in the world. It didn't change when they won MSI, and it certainly hasn't changed now. Every showing they've done has been incredible, and even the couple losses they've had, like the one loss they had to Fnatic at this point is very much was an accident. Very much at this point, it looks like that was an accident. What can I say other than I feel like this is going to be a 3-1 matchup for G2? I love Fnatic. I don't want to like not like give Fnatic any props because they're a very good team, but like this is my opinion. These are going to be the world champions. Like, what are you going to do against like the best team in the world? It's kind of like when Invictus smacked Fnatic 3-0 last year, right? Fnatic looked really good going in, but like Invictus was just clearly better than everyone else there. And even in years prior, when like the runner up to something goes up, right? But it's so clear that the other team is better that they just 3-0 them. Last year's Team Liquid versus Cloud9. Cloud9 looked really good going in, but Team Liquid was just so much better. Or the one where I think it was TSM versus Cloud9 and TSM 3-0'd Cloud9. I think it was 2015. Cloud9 looked really good, but TSM was just so much better. And in World SKT versus CLG, CLG looked very good going into that MSI final, but SKT was just so much better, and they won 3-0. So I think this is one of those cases where Fnatic is a very good team, and I expect them to compete, but G2 is just that much better. What can you say? It's hard to point out a flaw in G2 right now. It's very hard.
I think that's real. That's all very fair.
Real. It's realistic. It's not like putting them on a pedestal. It's just what they've shown us and what they said. They basically
I fully
said,
expect this to be a sweep for G2. I think all of us believe that they are by far the best team in the region. However, I give a little bit more credit to Fnatic than you, in the fact that I'm going to say G2 wins the series, but it will be a 3-2. The reason why I believe this, because G2 in the playoffs has proven that they are almost unbeatable. They showed that like they kind of have taken games off in the regular season and like messed around and done this and that. The thing is though that I think that Fnatic, first off, they're one of the oldest teams in the LEC. And they have done it before. Like they have a lot of
Wait. Did you say the oldest team in the LEC?
I said they're one of the oldest teams in the LEC.
But every team is only 1 year old in the LEC.
You know what I mean when I say that.
Sorry, I had to. I saw my opportunity and I just.
So anyway, but like they've been around. They have a lot of structure in that organization to be able to handle this sort of situation. On top of that, they have a team full of talented players that have also been around for a long time, and they've played together for a long time. On top of that, I feel like they have started to show that they're not just this old style Fnatic that they used to be. I think that they're starting to show a little bit more variation to their play with their champion pools, what they're willing to pick. Reckless is obviously the biggest example of this, with being able to play more than just 80 carries and picking up stuff like, the Garen Yumi and playing a lot of Karma, that sort of stuff. With all of those things, I give Fnatic enough credit to take 2 games off of G2. That still, I think, says enough of what I think about G2. That plus all of the other talk that we've had about G2 on this show. So
G2 has the best mid laner.
Well, they do.
Mm-hmm.
And now they have 2 of the best mid laners. One of them doesn't play mid lane anymore.
Oh, yeah, pretty much. By the way, while we're on this topic, did you all see the tweet that Perks put out a few days ago?
No.
So, Double Lift, anything Double Lift says can be turned into a meme. But he, in an interview with Travis Gafford, he said, "I'm in really fucking insane form right now. If I keep this up, I think I can carry us to a World Finals, right?"
Yeah, Uzi level or something like that.
Yeah, right. And so Perks said, "Wow, I'm in fucking dog shit mode right now. If I don't level up, I might be Double Lift's level."
Oh, Jesus!
It's like, holy shit! You need to calm down.
Oh, wow!
I love the Double Lift Perks dynamic that they created at MSI, and even at Rift Rivals, because it turns out Perks and Double Lift get along really well. But of course, their personalities on Twitter, they gotta shit to each other. But I fucking love that he took Double Lift sprays and turned it around on them, and that's amazing. I love it. But the funny part though is, like, if G2 played Liquid, I would fully expect G2 to win. So, like,
I mean, they did the last time they played.
It was 4 months ago. The NA fan in me says that was 4 months ago. The honest in me tells me no, G2 wins it again.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Tanner, what do you think about the series?
Man, I really like how Fnatic's been looking as of late. They, for all we know, based on, these teams playing against other divisions, they could be the second best team in the world. But that would still make them the second best team in the world. Because they have to play J2 or G2. So I don't see a world where G2 loses this series. I give a lot of credit to Fnatic because I do like how they've been playing, and they did take a couple games off G2 during the regular season. However, since this is the playoffs, this is a series, and G2 always has something up their sleeve. I'm sure they'll find something up there to throw out. So I'm going to predict a 3-1 for G2. I like Fnatic. Fnatic's playstyle. I'm not really a fan of Fnatic. But I like what they've been doing as of late. And so hopefully that gets them a game. But overall, I just think G2's way too good.
I think that's fair. Even though I disagree with you guys, I do think that that's fair. So.
Okay. Should we
cut?
G2 winning, right?
Yep. Only difference is you picked
Rogue.
Rogue.
Now. G2's winning Worlds. You've heard it here and now. August.
I don't know. I keep hearing all this shit about how SKT is apparently scary good. I haven't seen anything to back it up.
You were checking the storm. You were checking the storm when I said this. I watched SKT's stomp. Right. You know what it was? It was NA Ram. That's all it was. That's all they did to beat their opponent. And I just sat there. I'm like, every team has their regional strengths, right? Like, NA is very good at, like I said, the Dragon, the River, in mid lane, right? But that's like
that's where we got it from, right? Was Korea.
Yeah. But SKT just did that, and I was just kind of sitting there like, yeah, G2 would kill them. Like, that was just in my head on what I was thinking. I'm like, there's nothing. He didn't do anything special. Like, they just beat them in team fights, and I'm sitting there like, yeah, G2 would floor them. That's just all I could think of in the series. There was like nothing like in my head that I was like, Yeah, that's why I'm saying G2's winning Worlds. I'm not convinced by SKT is basically what I'm saying. I mean, I guess I'll find out when we have the Griffin versus SKT finals, which should be hype.
Oh yeah, that should be exciting.
Hopefully Griffin doesn't fucking choke again.
I know, right?
They always choke in the finals. I don't get it. But they qualified for Worlds this year, so even if they lose, they're still in.
Well, they probably would have last year too, but they were they had only played the one split, so they didn't have the opportunity. Like they would have had to win the split, which they almost did.
Yeah. So,
yeah. Should we go talk about NA, like just the results of NA?
Who cares about NA? Yeah, let's talk about NA.
I mean, we had 2 5-game series.
Okay, so the first one was CLG versus Clutch Gaming. Okay.
Looks like I'm frozen again. I do not know what's going on. I'm sure he's talking about CLG, CG, 3-2. CG starts up 2 games. And then CLG ended up with a reverse sweep, one of the first ones in a while. Still not back yet? Okay.
Well, this was my first reaction. Like, they won game 3? And then I looked at it and I watched CLG win game 4, and that was when I was like, Clutch Gaming just went mental boom, and CLG is about to win game 5, and then they did. So I was like floored that like Clutch Gaming let that slip out of their hands. I mean, like, props to CLG though. Like they really stuck to their guns. They pulled out game 3, which, by the way, I did go back and watch game 3. Clutch Gaming was rough. It was a replay of Cloud9 versus TSM. That's literally what that series was. Clutch Gaming was killing CLG in the first 2 games, just like Cloud9 was killing TSM in the first 2 games. And then at the beginning of the third game, for the first 15 minutes, Cloud9 was raffle stomping TSM, right? And Clutch Gaming was raffle stomping CLG. Then there was one fight that turned it in CLG's favor, just like there was one fight that turned it in TSM's favor. And then CLG never looked back. And TSM never looked back.
Yeah.
And like those matchups are very similar in how they like played out. It's kind of interesting though, because like this 3rd, 4th place matchup like didn't matter like that much because you're just going to play FlyQuest. It's what this determined who plays FlyQuest. And honestly, do we imagine FlyQuest beating Clutch Gaming or CLG?
No,
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I mean,
yeah.
okay. I mean, to be fair, we haven't seen FlyQuest for like 3 weeks. To be fair, if we want to be fair to them, we haven't seen them in 3 weeks, right?
Right. And they do have some talented players on that team that like they could come in and surprise, but
yeah, at the same
from
time,
what we saw from what we saw last of them, no,
Yeah,
none of us believe that they're going to beat Clutch or CLG.
I don't have a lot of hope for them. So they're just gonna play each other again. That's the thing. They're just gonna.
And after this series, I'm cool with that.
And then after that, the winner of that is going to face TSM.
So you're saying they're gonna win the gauntlet?
I'm pretty much telling you it's CLG or Clutch Gaming is gonna win the gauntlet.
That's what I said.
Basically, whoever wins that matchup again the second time around, like that's who's. I don't believe in FlyQuest or TSM. Sorry to like Selceus, but like I don't believe in either.
It makes me sad, but I said that because I also believe that right now too.
So
what I saw of TSM, that's what I believe too.
And for the love of God, even if TSM comes out in 3-0s like CLG or Clutch Gaming in that series, I will be so upset because I'll be like, no.
You're gonna be upset, and I'm gonna be filled with hope that this is the year they're gonna go to Worlds and something's gonna be different, and then they're gonna get knocked out of group stages, and I'm gonna be very sad.
My problem is we know nothing's gonna change with them. That's why I would not.
No, you know nothing's gonna change. I am gonna have hope again, and I'm gonna be very disappointed in like 4 weeks when it does not come to fruition.
Oh, that will be you. I promise that will be you. So, anyway, yeah. As for like the actual match itself, I thought it was interesting that CLG thought they could give Kiana to Demonte and give Power of Evil Diana as a counter. Fun fact, Diana hadn't been played since 2015 when it was Team Enemy versus Team Dragon Knights.
Whoa.
Y'all remember those names?
I remember the names. I can't remember any face associated with them.
Let's see. Lyra was on Team Dragon Knights. Trashy, who is now Cold. Trashy was on Enemy. The 80 carry of Enemy was, I don't remember. I remember like a couple of the play. Well, he was a huge Korean player at 80 carry. He was on Team Dragon Knights. He was so hyped up. Do either of you know who I'm talking about?
Nope.
Oh, he was hugely hyped up, and he like looked really good for a long time, but he kept like getting suspended, and then he never lived up to the hype. Oh, I forget the change. I'm gonna look that up. Yeah, he was a Korean.
Or are you talking about the Chinese guy that was on?
Yeah, you're not talking about Zhao Wei Zhao, are you?
I'm not talking about Joey Zhao.
It wasn't Zhao Wei Zhao because that was the mid laner of that team that I'm talking about. But he was on that team with Zhao Wei Zhao.
Not Apollo.
And then after this guy, Apollo played for that team. But yeah, like the super tall guy.
Emperor, that was it. And he went to go play for G2 after.
Okay. Yep. Definitely would have never got that.
Yeah. Do you remember?
I wasn't
Emperor,
even gonna get the guy that I was talking about. Like I couldn't tell you his name.
You guys remember Emperor though?
Nope.
Not really.
So Emperor was an 80 carry on Team Dragon Knights. He never lived up to that because he got suspended and whatnot. And then he went to G2, and he did really well with G2. He won a split with G2 actually. I don't remember why Emperor left G2, but I remember when Emperor was on G2. Perks was in the mid lane. I forget who the top laner and junglers were. This is like in like G2's like OG lineup. Emperor was part of it. So yeah, Emperor was on Team Dragon Knights.
Probably.
I remember this shit. I remember this shit.
The jungler.
Point is, Diana hasn't been played in 4 years, and they pulled it out, and it did not work. It's a very volatile matchup, though. I kind of see what CLG was like saying. Like if like Wiggly was able to come out and get Power of Evil ahead on Diana, like Diana's a solo queue stomper. Like if she gets ahead, she's impossible to beat. Like
the Scara special.
Like 5-0 Diana is so scary in solo queue, or just and even in the pro game, it's so scary because all she has to do is press R on you and you're dead. Like press R, you're dead. Like I don't care how good you are. You could be Uzi, you can be double lift. The second a 5-0 Diana is on that person, they're dead. Sorry, they're just dead. And that was probably their idea to stop Kiana, and specifically Demonte's Kiana, was if we get him ahead, not only is Kiana useless because Kiana's not very good. When you're behind, I don't care. That's being played by Tanner or Demonte. Like, it's just not a good Kiana's just not a good champion behind. And then she's also trying to deal with a fed Diana. That's GG. So I like the idea. But
honestly, out of any player that you would pick to play a champion like Diana,
of course it's
Power of Evil is like the number one name that should come to your mouth.
Of course it's Power of Evil, right? But like it just didn't work. Like the execution was pretty bad. They did lose that game. Power of Evil wasn't very relevant. Shockingly enough, Wiggly was not very good this series. For him having had a great series, and I understand like this is his first playoffs, but damn, he did not look good. In either versus Cloud9 or like Clutch Gaming. Like it was pretty concerning that like Wiggly did not live up to the hype. Now maybe that changes for the gauntlet and whatnot, and because he has some experience now. But damn, this dude, like I hope he learned a lot from this because he made some really like simple mistakes that shouldn't be happening. Like Lyra was counter jungling him very easily. He wasn't getting up on the engages like he was supposed to. He wasn't helping control bot lane. So CLG really fell behind in getting Drakes. Actually, Clutch Gaming outpaced CLG and Drakes. The number one team for Drakes got outpaced by Clutch Gaming, who I think is only number 7. So CLG overall, like even though they won, did not have like a great series and were not core to who themselves were. I really think after CLG won Game 3 and then won Game 4, it was just a mental boom for Clutch Gaming. They were able to take advantage of the fact that they didn't allow Clutch to close it out when they should have, and then Clutch Gaming just didn't pull it off. So I'm genuinely curious for the gauntlet, and we'll talk about that because the gauntlet's the thing happening this weekend. Or sorry, not this weekend, the following weekend. Maybe we'll just save it for the following weekend. Probably for the best.
Yeah. Well, like what you were, or I guess you and I talked about this as well before we started the show, but like, even though I wasn't on last week's show, I did make my picks for the 4 playoff series that were going to happen. And this one, I picked CLG to win 3-0. And the reason why is because you thought that it was a mental boom after like game 3, game 4 for Clutch. I was surprised they didn't come into this series already mentally broken after the way that they lost to Team Liquid. The fact that they were up 2-0 against the now 4-time NA champions, and then got reverse swept. I thought that they were, and the way that like Hooney reacted after they lost, like I really thought that they had no chance coming into this. So I was surprised that they came out again and got a 2-0 advantage against a team that, you know, has been one of the most consistent teams in the league all split long. Ultimately, I felt really bad for them because 2 series like this has got to just be extremely heartbreaking. Especially for a team that, you know, got into the playoffs the way that they did, and I don't know, like nobody expected much from, to then, you know, giving a hard time to Team Liquid, whom everybody expected to just easily walk to a finals victory, and then, you know, perform well enough to where they probably should have been the 3rd place team in the split, if not for that one team fight, like you said. So I felt bad for them. I didn't expect a lot because I thought they were going to come into the series already just completely destroyed. But I think that you have to take your hat off to them and the fact that they didn't come into the series that way. But you also have to hand it to CLG that once they were able to figure out the method to winning, they were able to pull off the reverse sweep. It's always impressive to see a team be able to pull off a reverse sweep when you've dug yourself into that kind of hole. Being able to come out with a series victory is always very impressive, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I think my biggest question for CG going into the gauntlet as well, and obviously we'll talk about that, but like, I'm not sure if CG has the gas in the tank to run an entire gauntlet, whereas it seems like teams like teams like CLG are able to kind of like have that controlled mentality and keep themselves in games. Because like I said, I wasn't too certain about what was going to go on with...
I can hear that rain.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's heavy.
Quality.
I wasn't too certain
right.
if Clutch was going to be able to keep their mentality similarly to you, but you know, I was very impressed with their playstyle. But I do think that they have shown a little bit that they do kind of fizzle out a little bit towards the ends of series. I mean, obviously their TSM series wasn't as hard for them, but when they went up against, you know, the teams this time around that have been, you know, real good all season, they just kind of faltered a little bit at the end. So it kind of starts to make me think like, okay, they are able to win these best of ones, and they're able to come up to these really good starts, but do they have enough gas in the tank, either mentally or physically, or what is it, to kind of pull through the entire gauntlet? So I think, yeah, it is impressive for CG, but I think CLG definitely showed their strengths in being kind of a you know, that balanced team that we've expected from them.
Yeah. I don't have anything more to say on the series. Should we talk about the Team Liquid Cloud9?
Yeah,
Sure.
I'm good to talk about it.
You know what? Tanner, you always get the back end of everything. You start this one off.
Sure. So Team Liquid, Cloud9. Team Liquid has officially four-peated for the first time, bringing home the prophecy of four for Team
Four
Liquid
for
and
Liquid.
Curse. Yeah.
Four. Number 4. By the way, this means
Everything has finally come full circle,
you're
and
finishing fourth in worlds, by the way. That's what this means. You're gonna make semifinals and get raffle stomped.
yeah, probably. Uh, but
Continue.
at any rate, it was. I think for me, it was really, really intense series up until Game 5. I think it was very back and forth. Cloud9 has looked absolutely fantastic during these playoffs. And there were plenty of moments where I was getting legitimately worried, not only because of how well C9 was playing, but because during the early goings in a lot of these games, like the games that TL lost, TL, like outside of maybe Doublelift, looked lost. They there were times where
Doublelift kept them in the series for sure at a few moments.
Yeah, like it was very shocking sometimes to watch the series because the games that they won, everybody seemed like they were playing really well together. Jensen started popping off at the right times, and during those games it was great. But then during the losses, man, Team Liquid did not look like a solid team at all. And part of me it's hard to think about like, okay, because I think I remember saying something similar to this where. Like the ups of Team Liquid would probably be enough to beat C9, and I think that happened. But man, I definitely got a little worried there, specifically because Sneaky played out of his mind during this series. I think he was absolutely excellent during this series, and I don't know, man. That was probably the biggest worry for me because. Sneaky as a player has shown time and time again that he is silently dominant at his role. And I think a lot of the games that they won ended up being, the result of Sneaky making some clutch play here in this team fight, or Sneaky doing, all these things really well. And I really appreciated watching that. Sven had a great series as well, but I don't know what happened in Game 5. I think,
I'll tell you what happened because
Yeah.
it was one of the things that I hated the most.
Yeah, go for it.
C9 picked Vladimir, and the moment that they did that, I said Team Liquid has just won the game. I think that pick, I don't know why it was picked. In I think 2 games this series, I think that Team Liquid picked it once, if I remember correctly, or maybe I'm thinking of a
Team
different
Liquid also
series
picked it once,
altogether.
and they lost that game too.
Yeah, so but like I was not impressed with that champion as an idea. In both of the games that I saw it, ultimately,
honest question, why not?
just I don't think that it fits into, I guess, like the meta right now, in my opinion. Granted, I am basing this off of the 2 games that I saw where both of them were losses for the team that had it, and it looked like absolute dog shit. So, but like, I saw it the first game, I thought that, and that was enough for me to think that the moment I saw them lock it in, C9 lock it in, the game was over. On top of that, I loved the Shin pick for Impact. That is a champion that I think should be associated to Impact because of how well he plays it. Not only does he do well in top lane with it, because I think that he can actually carry playing a champion like Shin, but he also utilizes the champion's ultimate better than most. So not only does he have that, he also has teleport, and because of that, he's able to make his presence known elsewhere on the map multiple times, each 5 minutes instead of just once per TP. He can do it at least twice. He always does it in a never wastes the ultimate with Shin, in my opinion, and he did it again this game. So the fact that those two picks happened, that like right there, and it was enough for me to think that the game was over before it even started. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so like I guess that was one thing that I did not like about how the series ended, because Game 5 was ultimately very disappointing
Mm-hmm.
after the rest of the series. The ultimately, I will not lie, I was disappointed in the outcome of the series.
Bias.
I know that Tanner was extremely happy.
Yeah. I mean, like, just real quickly, because like when this series ended, that was like some of the first things me and Sanders texted each other was just like as a Team Liquid fan, I am very happy with the outcome of that series. But as like a League of Legends fan, that was a very underwhelming Game 5. Absolutely.
My bias was just that I didn't want to see a 4P. That doesn't matter what sport you're talking about. I don't like seeing dynasties. I like seeing rotating champions.
Wait. I don't like seeing dynasties, said the Dallas Cowboys fan. I don't want to hear it. The 90s dynasty was there. I don't want to hear it.
Yes, Sanders.
And
But you had to go back to the 90s when you're referencing the Cowboys.
But it was still...
There was 20 years before they won a playoff game, so get off of my back. And I was still a Cowboys fan through all 20 years.
I mean, that's fine. But if you're going to complain about dynasties, your team has
honestly,
one.
I don't... Okay,
TSM.
fine.
I don't want to hear shit. Oh my god. Continue. You were saying about dynasties when two of your favorite teams have them. Moving on.
Ultimately, that is fair because I did fall in love with them during their dynasties. I did not necessarily fall in love with them because of their dynasties. Fell in love with them because they were good, and that resulted in them being like champions. Anyway, obviously there is a if it was my team, I would have a different opinion, I'm sure. But Team Liquid is not my team, and therefore I did not want to see them 4P.
Appreciate greatness. That's what I gotta say.
That's fair, and I do. I would have been okay, probably more okay, if they didn't win. Because C9 also is a great team, and they have been in a drought.
Yeah, that was the one thing about it was just like I really do love C9. Like if I had to pick a second team to root for in LCS, like it's easiest choice in the world would be Cloud9. Like I love a lot of the guys a lot, and it does
so much to love the organization and Jack and everything else.
Oh yeah, it's hard. They're hard not to love. But
for sure,
it's just one of those things where it's just like I wish there could be two winners. You know, I don't want C9 to keep being in this drought, but at the other hand, you know, just like hey.
I mean, technically there were two winners because both of those teams qualified for Worlds.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah, they did. But one last thing I wanted to say about like the dynasty thing, and it's not like giving you flack for it. Do you want to call it a Team Liquid dynasty, or should we just call it the 4-year double lift dynasty? Because isn't that really what it is? From CLG to TSM to Team Liquid, it's just double lift.
I think it establishes honestly, double lift as like the greatest North American player of all time. Like I think there's very little debate to be had about that at this point.
But I do not think that it is double lift and double lift alone.
No,
that is the reason why all of those teams won. There was good talent surrounding him, and in this case, Team Liquid has a lot of good talent surrounding him.
All world talent, yeah.
But I will say that leads into my second big gripe about this series. I have one other thing that I do not agree with at all, and that is the fact that Jensen was the player of the series.
Agreed.
Thank you.
I
Thank
think
you.
that
Holy
Impact should have been the
shit.
player of the series.
You know, that's I like that take. I like that take. For me, it was Double Lift, but I also like the
Double
Impact
Lift
take.
and Impact. I would have had both of them ahead of Jensen.
I was very surprised when that came out that Jensen was the MVP.
I think that they did it because of the storyline that they had been promoting through the entire series of the him
Scripted.
versus Niski stuff, and the fact that like Niski was the replacement for Jensen, blah blah blah. I think that narrative played a lot into the Jensen pick for the player of the series. I thought it was. Did you guys see? Oh, I felt so bad for Cloud9 after this, but in Game 4, they showed a tweet from the Cloud9 official Twitter account that said Jensen's finally helping us win our first title.
Oh God, that was amazing. He tweeted it early. It was Portillo. He's the
So they
C9 manager.
actually tweeted that during Game.
It was the end of Game 2. It was Game 2. It was Game 2. Game 2 hadn't even finished, and it was the end of Game 2.
Oh, I thought they said that it was the game before they showed it, which would have been Game 3 when Niski was destroying. Or wait, maybe it was.
It was the end of Game 2.
It was Game 2 that they tweeted it, because it was the game that Niski destroyed everyone on Aurelia, including Jensen, multiple times solo.
Portillo loves to meme. He really does. And
that one backfired badly.
Yeah. What's funny is he actually put out another meme because he's a social media manager.
Yeah, I was gonna say the recovery was good. If you want to talk about it,
I missed the recovery. What happened?
So I think it was 20 minutes after the tweet was out, right? It was before Game 3 started, but it was as Game 3 was starting. He put Cloud9. Portillo's the one who manages Cloud9 Twitter, but Cloud9 said, this was a very unprofessional tweet. The person who tweeted it is no longer working there, right? And then Portillo was the first one to respond to it and said, "Big oof." So he just memed himself for it.
Yeah, wasn't it like the Immortals copy pasta that they used from back in 2017?
It was the Immortals copy pasta. Yeah, it was really funny. He wasn't fired.
Oh, of course not. Yeah.
Cloud9 social media is very known for trolling. They are the biggest trolls of all esports, so it wasn't surprising, but it was just funny how he said, "Oh, well, we fired myself," and then he on his own separate Twitter account made a comment on it. There was a lot of memes to be had, and then at the very end, after they lost, he retweeted and was like, "Well, this blows." And then on his real account, he was like, "Guys, I didn't jinx us. It was a meme. Please stop harassing me." I was like, "Oh, I feel bad for him now." He was just trying to be core to what he does for his job, and then he got harassed.
Yeah. Yep. Well, but honestly, if you are a meme person or organization, you better expect some backlash, especially
if you get it wrong.
Especially when the results happen the way that they did for that particular tweet. Otherwise, this was a great series. The first 4 games were extremely entertaining. I thought it was evenly matched. Game 5, I really did not like the top lane pick for C9, and I didn't expect much once that happened. But then obviously when the game gets started and Double Lift starts the game 3-0 on Kaisa, you also know that you're in for a bad time. But yeah, I think I covered really all the talking points that I had on this series. Was there anything else you guys wanted to talk about? All of my talking points were gripes.
No, I think I'm pretty much good. I think going into Worlds, I'm fairly excited for both of these teams if they're both playing at the caliber that we've seen. Like if they're both at their best, I think they both have a chance of making out of groups and doing NA proud this year. Especially, I mean, I want to say especially C9, but C9 has shown that that's not as much of an issue for them as it is for somebody like Team Liquid. So I really hope TL does it this year. My worst fear, though, is them, because we've talked about this a bit, getting drafted into the likely group of death that's forming. That could be a result of, like SK Telecom not winning finals, and then also, Fnatic, and then also Cloud9. And, like, that's probably kind of a scary situation.
Well, Team Liquid will definitely not be in the
Team
same
Liquid
group as
could-
Cloud9, but
So theoretically, this is a group right now that can happen. Okay. Team Liquid, Fnatic, SKT, Invictus Gaming if they get the third seed.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
Yikes! It's so funny. Like on the Discord we were talking about with Wayne, the old host. He was like, "I really think the first seed is beneficial." And I thought to myself, I'm like, if we were Korean or Chinese, yes. We're not though. And Double have kind of talked about this. I highly recommend watching The Q. It's a new show with Dash. It was really, really good. He interviewed both Doublelift and Svenskeren. And it's a it's a podcast he's doing, but the podcast he's doing, it doesn't talk about like specific things. It's like interviews with players.
Have to download that.
Oh, it was so good. He got into Doublelift's mind for 40 minutes and it was cool. And then he got into Svenskeren's for I think Svenskeren had like 35, 37 minutes. But it was really cool. He got into the minds of the players, and I'm excited for him to continue that with other players as well. But like Doublelift talked about how like what were we just talking about that I was getting into this?
Worlds and seeding and that sort of stuff.
Oh, he talked about how like in the past when he would get number one with like TSM and even like the beginning with Team Liquid, he always felt like number one seed didn't matter because NA was just so insignificantly worse than everyone else that having number one seed didn't matter, right? And he talked about that. He's like, when I was on TSM, it didn't matter. We went 1-5 one year, and then the next year we went 3-3, right? He's like, it didn't matter that we were the number one seed. There was no advantage to it because we were just significantly worse than everyone else. And he said now this year he truly believes that having the number one seed will make a difference because he thinks it's so close. Mm-hmm. And he points to last year's Worlds. He points to MSI, how like it's not Korea, it was China, and then it was EU. And he firmly believes like NA has a shot. He's like, I think we have the best shot. He's like, but he talked about he wouldn't be surprised if Cloud9 made a run like they did last year. Or he thinks just like it's very close and like NA could win it if they really like outdid themselves. Or EU could or whatever. He thinks it's very close and it's not just a given by anyone. G2's winning Worlds, by the way. But he actually thinks it's close. So I still don't think seeding matters for NA, despite the fact it's closer. I think the only way it would matter is if you're gonna get. Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna confirm this. If you got like AHQ or the J team on in your group, right? Like if you wanted to secure them in your group, those are some easy wins. Like Taiwan's not impressive anymore. So, which
honestly, you're gonna have to beat everybody. That's like all the good teams if you're gonna win Worlds. So.
But what I'm talking about,
if you're gonna win Worlds, it shouldn't matter which group you're in.
Or I'm talking about like getting into knockout stage because that's always been Doublelift's problem. He's never gotten into a knockout stage. So yeah. By the way, Flash Wolves is not in Worlds right now. HQ and J Team, those are the two who have made it. I did look that up. So I'm pretty much like settled like what I want on Team Liquid versus Cloud9. Is there anything else you guys got?
No, I think I'm good.
All right, so the Gauntlet's going to be next weekend, so we'll talk about that. I think we're pretty much finished here.
Yeah, sounds good.
We're going to be talking about EU Finals next weekend, and we're going to be talking about the Gauntlet next weekend. So lots more heavy League of Legends to go through with these two regions before we get to World. With that being said, you can find me on Twitter at JCSandersTBS. You can find Tanner at twitch.tv/Blitzerama. He's streaming. It's cool. I like it. I watch it. Remember to always.
Are we still doing baseball?
To be determined right now. Burnout is a thing, so I'll have to figure that out.
Remember, always eat your vegetables. That's what he likes to say.
Don't know why, but it just.
How's your sign out? How does it go?
It's like and this is Blitz reminding you to eat your vegetables.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
Remember, you heard it here first. Eat your vegetables. It's good for you.
You should. You should.
I learned that at way too late. I'm only 23 and I learned that way too late. It wasn't until 19 that I finally realized vegetables were awesome. So I'm sure Selceus is wishing his kids would recognize that right now.
I do. My kids love fruit, but not so much.
That's not bad.
Not so much.
That's
vegetables.
something at least.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, because I was not a big fan of either, and so I'm glad that my children like at least one of them.
Yeah.
I will say that is all my wife though. So
fair.
She did a good
Anyways,
job with that.
So you can find Tanner at his Twitch. You can find me on Twitter, and you can find Selceus on our Discord. So from me, Jacob Sminted Sanders, and Jamie Selceus Christensen, and Tanner Blitzerama Brelje, we are the Sixth Dorans Show, and we will see you all on the Rift.